You're listening to the Kelly Green Hour for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast or visit us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a Victory Green Hour for the first time in what seems like forever, as the Philadelphia Eagles went into Buffalo and beat a very good Buffalo Bills team 31-13. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and joining me as always is Connor. Connor, what's going on, man?
Oh, same old stuff. You know, it's Tuesday, working towards Halloween and another weekend. So,
what's the weather gonna be like? What's the weather gonna be like for you on Thursday?
Well, I don't think we're going to get many kids knocking at our door because I think it's supposed to be heavy rain and wind. So
same here. So there was talk in my neighborhood because I'm on a Facebook group, like a community group for my neighborhood, and there's like, hey, what's the talk of moving this till like Saturday? And I'm like, I didn't answer it, but in my head I'm like, I don't want to deal with your kids anyway, so just don't come to my house.
Just turn your light off and leave it at that.
Pretty much, especially with the dog. I just don't like people constantly knocking on the door.
No, well, yeah, exactly. I have 3 dogs, so yeah, I could do without any knocking or doorbell ringing. Well, luckily when we moved into the new house, the doorbell didn't work. They recommended we fix it, and we were like, nah, we're
not
good.
So after.
we got dogs.
All right, so before we get to the Eagles Bills game, the NFL trade deadline passed earlier today, and the Philadelphia Eagles, along with a bunch of other teams, did not make any moves. And there was talk all weekend, after the Eagles beat the Bills, that the Eagles were looking to do something fun. They're 4-4. They feel like they can win the division. I don't think the NFC East gets a wild card team, so they have to win the division, and that means you have to beat Dallas. And Dallas they beat you twice last year. They've beaten you 3 consecutive times. They've beaten you 4 of the last 5 times you've played. So it's imperative that the Eagles had to improve their team. They didn't make any moves. And this doesn't just encompass today. I mean, yeah, they traded a 2021 fourth round pick to the Browns for Jannard Avery, a defensive end, but he's not somebody that's going to move the needle. There are plenty of positions on this Eagles team that need help. They need a speed receiver. They need linebackers. They may need a rush. They may need an end. Who knows? They might need a corner, but I don't think corner's as big of a need. Obviously, we played the Bills. It was 30-mile-an-hour winds. Josh Allen is not beating you through the air. So we'll see how it goes over the next couple weeks, because you're going to be facing the likes of Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. But the Eagles have plenty of pieces or plenty of, roster adjustments that they should have made, could have made, but did not make. What were your thoughts on the inactivity at the trade deadline?
Well, I guess like we were talking about right before we came on to record, I tweeted earlier today that I just think based on the Mohamed Sanu and the Jalen Ramsey deal, the market was set extremely high. And Howie was not willing to budge on giving up multiple future draft picks for a player, a potential rental, whatever it may be. Maybe it wouldn't have been a rental. Maybe it would have been someone that they could have signed long term. But I'm of the belief, and I've seen it on the half of Eagles Twitter who isn't losing their mind over the fact we did nothing, is that he thinks we have the team to compete when we're healthy. The sad reality is we're never going to be fully healthy. Not all together as a team, sadly. But we do have Crayvon LeBlanc potentially coming back here soon. Timmy Jernigan just around the corner. Looks like Deshaun Jackson will be playing. this week. So, I mean, we're getting back to full health, but I just don't think the team's there even at full health. I mean, we've seen it at 3/4 of the way to full health, even more than that. And it's not a Super Bowl contending team. It's barely a division winning team in my eyes.
Yeah, they're going to get a bunch of pieces back, but what are so Deshaun Jackson, now it's reported that he's probably going to play. He's going to speak to the media on Thursday, so we'll find out what he has to say. But even if he plays, he's going to be in pain. Like, the injury that he has, it's not something that he's not going to be playing pain-free. And what are the chances that he actually plays a full game, or what are the chances that he's going to have to sit out a game later on? And again, I'm going to go back to something that I've been saying is the construction of this roster by Howie Roseman. If you're going to depend on a speed receiver, why the hell don't you have a second speed receiver? That really hurt this offense. And, this is where watching Carson Wentz play, he is the least of my worries because he is doing a lot with a little right now. And
No, absolutely. But I mean, at the end of the day, the best speed receiver that was available was probably Robbie Anderson. And if the asking price is true, well, then I would no team in their right mind's pulling the trigger on a second round pick for Robbie Anderson. I'm sorry. If you wanted to sell him at that value, you should have used him a lot more leading up to the trade deadline to prove he was worth something. Because at the most, like the beginning, I think it was Adam Schefter reported that their market value was about a 5th rounder. So you might have been able to push a needle to a 4th. But to think that you're getting a second is like an Alshon Jeffrey type receiver that you're getting, like a real wide receiver 2 for your team. You might be able to get a second rounder for. But Robbie Anderson is not someone who pushes the needle for any team by any stretch.
I do know one thing, that Howie Roseman is lucky, very, very lucky, that the Dallas Cowboys did not get Jamal Adams. If Dallas would have made another trade for the second straight year, so last year they made the trade for Amari Cooper. It was a first-round pick. A lot of people, including myself, made fun of them for trading a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. What did it do for them? They were 3-5. They won the division. If they would have made a trade they're looking for safety help. Jeff Heath sucks. He is terrible. They have been in need of safety help for a long time. If they would have been able to get Jamal Adams, probably the best safety in football, definitely the best young safety in football, that would have dramatically hurt the Eagles' chances. And this is where, I'm glad the Joe Douglas wanted a 1st and 2 seconds. Dallas offered a 1st and a 3rd day pick. So a 1st and a 4, 5, 6, or 7. So we're fortunate that Douglas didn't give in and trade him, because if Jamal Adams would have went to the Cowboys, the Eagles aren't winning this division. Dallas has that mindset. They don't care about the draft picks right now because they're in it to win now. And that's what the Rams are in it to win now. That's what the Eagles should have done when it came to the case of a Jalen Ramsey, or when it came into the case of a Clowney, who you could have given up a sack of footballs for pretty much to get a Jadeveon Clowney who could have helped on the defensive line. So I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully getting the pieces, the injured pieces back, getting a Jernigan back, getting Deshaun back. We saw how the last 2 weeks we saw Jalen Mills come back, and he's actually played very well. Yes, he didn't give up big plays against Dallas, but and it was against the Bills team that wasn't really throwing the ball because of the weather conditions. We'll see if he gets tested this week, going up against Allen Robinson. He'll definitely get tested going up against a Mohamed Sanu or a Julian Edelman in 3 weeks against against the New England Patriots. But that is, you're getting healthy, which you mentioned, and that's a good thing. But I don't think it's the end all be all.
No, it definitely isn't the end all be all. I think there could have been some moves made. But like I said, I don't think Howie was ready to move the needle with any of the moves that he was going to make. He reached out, he shopped around. Joe Douglas clearly learned best from Howie. You don't settle. You go for everything you think somebody's worth, because they basically put the entire team on the market but felt that everyone was worth at least a 1st or 2nd day pick, which was completely absurd. But At the end of the day, I mean, he seems to think that he has the right team, he has the right pieces in play to go for the division, but that relies on complete 100% healthy play and strong competitive play going forward from here on out.
We better hope so, because that Dallas team is a half game ahead of us right now. They get the Giants on Monday night this upcoming week. You'd have to assume that's going to be a win.
Well, I was looking at Mike Clay's strength of schedule formula, and it showed we had like the third it had to be third easiest strength of schedule. Well, the Cowboys had the 21st, so we definitely have the schedule in our favor. We can't, if they win, we have to win. If they lose, we could afford the one loss, but we really got to win. When they lose or win, we have to be winning.
Yeah, because Dallas, in 3 weeks when we play the Patriots, Dallas plays the Patriots the week after we do. And that's when the Eagles are playing the Seahawks. So the schedule, the next 3 games for the Eagles aren't easy, but then those next 5 games that's where the cupcake part of our schedule is. So I did want to at least touch base on, what the inactivity of the trade deadline. It wasn't just for the Eagles, and I'm still disappointed in Howie Roseman and the Eagles are not making any moves to improve the team. We will see. The defense might not get tested that much this week. Yeah, the Bears have a decent running game. Trubisky stinks. Trubisky's still the starter. They have Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is a good receiver, so we'll get to see if the corners have improved at all. But after the bye week, the Patriots and the Seahawks, that's where we will be tested. And it's going to be interesting to see how things go about for the Eagles after the bye week in those 2 games. And the Eagles are finally home, though. So hopefully the Patriots coming to here won't play as well. The Seahawks having to come all the way across the country. If that game stays at 8:20, okay. But if that game gets flexed out and it goes to, say, a 1 p.m. game, that's an advantage for the Eagles because the body clock for the Seahawks, they're playing at 11 or 10 or 11 a.m. So I kind of want that game to get flexed to a 1 o'clock game, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think it might be a little early for the flex games, but maybe we can help.
They've started to flex some games already, so they'd have 10 days before that game to make the decision. All right, so let's move to this past Sunday night where the Eagles came away with a much-needed win at 31-13 against your Buffalo Bills. A team that looks like they've played a very easy schedule. Their defense, which I thought was going to be a strength for them in the game, the Eagles ran down their throats for over 200 yards this season high. Their offense, yeah, Josh Allen's made a play here, a play there, but their offense was not impressive at all. And the Eagles, maybe they were helped by the weather conditions, but the Eagles took advantage of mistakes by the Bills and came away with that much-needed victory, their 4th victory in the last 5 games against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt the weather conditions helped, but it also helped massively the way that the Eagles started that game with the Fletcher Cox fumble and just the Fletcher Cox's first quarter in general. And just it felt like, at least in the first quarter, the play column was a lot better by Doug Pederson. It felt like a revived Doug Pederson. But, I mean, we definitely, there was a number of times where the run game, at the beginning, the frustration was setting in because it was always starting with 2 runs and giving Wentz that 3rd down to make something happen through the air. And, I mean, given the weather conditions, it worked this time around. But in the coming weeks, you're not going to be able to run all over teams like we got with this game. So I'm definitely not going to sit there and say that we have a revived run game. This is a run game you're going to see going forward. I'm definitely not of that belief. I think the weather definitely helped, and ultimately they have a strong defense, but they're more of a middle of the pack as far as stopping the run because their defensive line isn't amazing. It's good, it's strong, but it's not amazing. We discussed it on the preview show. They don't get a ton of pressure at the quarterback, which means that stopping the run is probably not going to be a strong suit of theirs either. So the weather and that definitely helped play a role in the running game getting going and the running game just literally running all over them.
I know. I mentioned it after the Green Bay game that game plan where they relied heavily on the run is a game plan that without a Deshaun Jackson, they're going to have to implement more often. And they did it against Buffalo. Teams are going to try to come out and double team Zach Ertz. Alshon doesn't, while he did have a 38-yard reception, he doesn't really have that speed to get down the field. And we know that Nelly is pretty much falling out of favor. And why is Mac Hollins on this team? He had zero catches. Has zero catches in this. Had zero catches.
He's on the team because Doug Pederson literally said J-Jaw is too similar to Alshon Jeffrey, so they don't want two Jeffreys on the field.
I don't even care.
Which makes no sense. It makes no goddamn sense because if you're not going to throw to him, well, why not have J-Jaw, Ertz, Goddard, and Jeffrey all on the field at the same time? For the love of God, if all you're going to do is play sticks offense and run to the sticks and catch the ball, well, for the love of God, I bet those four can probably do that much for you.
And Mac Hollins, who just wants to play special teams at this point in time, he's just he doesn't do anything for this offense. He's a liability out there. Yeah, and if you're not going to have J-Jaw out there, put Greg Ward on the active roster. Let him go out there. Put somebody out there with speed. But the Eagles, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the first quarter. They scored the only points of the first quarter, which was kind of a shocker. Early in the second quarter, the Bills had a 14-yard touchdown pass from Allen to Cole Beasley, where Nate Gary got kind of caught in no man's land. If he didn't come up to Allen would have ran it in. He came up, Beasley open, touchdown. And the one thing that good teams do, I'm going to say the Patriots because the Patriots do it often. They like to bookend. They will like to score at the end of the first half, and then they get the ball and score at the beginning of the second half. And that's what the Eagles did this game. Dallas Goedert with the 5-yard touchdown on a great play by Carr. It was a great setup by Doug. They had the play where Alshon came from. He was on the far side of the field. He came in like he was going to catch the screen. They faked it to him. Wentz looked to the other side, faked it, and then had a cutting Goddard in the middle of the end zone, hit him for a touchdown as he beat, I think it was Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer. It was a great play design. And then to start the second half, Miles Sanders with the burner showing his speed on a 65-yard run on an absolute beautiful block by Jordan Howard. It's the first time I've seen the Eagles put Howard and Sanders, at least that I can remember, that Howard and Sanders in the backfield together. And while Sanders had 96 yards rushing, he had a great game with the ball in his hands. I think that block was his best play of the day. And Miles Sanders running away from the Bills defense. I knew he was fast, but I didn't know he was that fast.
Yeah, I think it was a next-gen stats that he went 20.9 miles per hour or something like that. So, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, we have something special in Miles Sanders, and I won't deny that. But he can't be our leading receiver week in and week out. Something's got to change as far as that goes. Sure, it's working out, but the weather was shit, so that definitely benefited us. But that can't be, when the weather is nice, that can't be the going forward because you're not going to match a Tyler Lockett and a Russell Wilson combination with a Miles Sanders and a Carson Wentz combination if it's air attack versus air attack. So, but I mean, it was definitely, it was nice to see them come out, start the game with a score, come out of the second half, get that score. They definitely look like a completely different team to end the first half and to start the second half. They looked fired up. It looked like a team that actually wanted to win and like they actually, they felt like they had something to play for, like we talked about it in previous weeks. The Cowboys and the Vikings had motivation in a different form. And although you may disagree with that way of getting that type of motivation, it worked. It got them the wins. The players were all hyped up together. They were all fired up together, and they were all looking to win for whatever reason they may have been trying to win for, whether that be the comments of a Zach Brown or whether that be any comments or a rivalry or anything. So, I mean, it felt like a team that was actually playing to win, and it felt good. It felt good that second half and then the first half. It just felt good to see that Eagles, and that Eagles team needs to be the team that we see every week, every possession, every game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I said it last week that, you shouldn't be motivated by the comments of somebody, but Fletcher Cox said it after the game, brought them together. Jalen Mills has been saying it. Malcolm Jenkins, all the leaders on the team have been saying that brought the team together, and they're not going to let any outside noise affect them, and it didn't. And all the stars on the Eagles defense showed up. Fletcher Cox had a great game. Brandon Graham had a sack, had a forced fumble. Malcolm Jenkins was all over the field. Ronald Darby had a big pass breakup on fourth down in the second half. Everybody that needed to show up, and they have to do it consistently now. This upcoming week against the Bears, again, this is another team that has a good defense, but their offense is iffy. So again, the defense they may not get tested like they did against Minnesota or Dallas, but you have to still find a way to make plays. The Bills it felt like the Bills were picking up third and long after third and long, and it was so frustrating on their one touchdown drive where in the second half, I believe, where Devin Singletary had the 28-yard touchdown catch where he broke a couple tackles. I'm pretty sure they converted like a 3rd and 5, a 3rd and 12. Like they converted 3 third downs on that drive. That should not happen. The Eagles have to find a way to get off the field on third down.
No, exactly. The Sticks defense it's a complete atrocity. It doesn't work. Schwartz needs to find a new go-to third down approach because it's just not working. The Sticks defense does not work, and it does not work because the biggest issues that our team has continue to stand out on third downs. The secondary and the second level and their tackling issues. Those issues stand out even more on the third down when they're playing at the Sticks and you are 100% relying on the secondary or the second level making the tackle, which we have proven we cannot do and we have not been able to do at any point this season. So Jim Schwartz really needs to just come up with a brand new strategy in regards to how he wants to challenge third downs because it's just not working. They are exploiting the tackling issues and they're exploiting our weakness at the second level on these third downs. And that just can't continue to happen week in and week out because we're lucky the way that the weather was and the team we were playing, because be that a more talented team, which sounds bad for me to say, but be it a more talented team, like let's say the Seahawks or the Patriots, they will eat those third downs alive constantly. You'd be lucky to get to the third down and have that opportunity on third down, third and long, third and mid-range type situation. So Schwartz has to definitely think of a new strategy on third down because I'm getting tired of seeing them line up with 6 guys at the Sticks and 4 men going for the quarterback because it's not working.
You're not going to see that because Jim Schwartz is stubborn beyond belief. So he's not going to change his ways.
But how can you sit there as Jim Schwartz and say, yep, this is working. This is working. Yep. Especially when it happens multiple times on the same drive. If it happened like once every drive, okay, we give up a third down. Okay, it happens. But it's happened multiple times on the same drive. That like we must be at the bottom for third down stoppage, like third down stops. We must be because I can't remember the last time I can name more than one third down stop in a row, like multiple third down stops. I just can't remember. Just can't think of them.
I can't either. It's pretty bad. Hopefully some changes get made. And they're going to need to be made. They have a couple big games coming up. Carson Wentz's numbers, he only had 170 to 174 yards passing. But this might have been one of his best games of the year. He ran the ball a couple times on third down. He did a couple things where, he was moving around. And as Ike Reese says, they let the Bronco buck. This is what the Eagles and Doug Pederson need to allow Carson Wentz to do. Let him move around. Stop keeping him shackled in the pocket. He's not a pocket passer. Can he throw from the pocket? Yeah, sure. But he's more confident and he's more comfortable and he's really accurate when he's moving around. He's one of the few right-handed quarterbacks that I know that can roll left and throw it with power and accuracy. Him and like Patrick Mahomes, and there may be one or two, Aaron Rodgers, There may be another, one or two quarterbacks that can do it, that can go to their left, thrown across their and thrown across their body, and throwing on like perfect passes on time right to their receiver, and hopefully the receiver catches it. But that's what they need to allow him to do. And when you're going up against a tough defense like the Bills and this upcoming game against the Bears, that's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to move his spot. So Khalil Mack and, Ed Oliver, they don't know where the quarterback's going to be. He's not going to be on the same spot every time he drops back.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the thing with Carson Wentz, and a lot of people point and allude to like some people point out, oh, he doesn't have that many yards. Oh, he doesn't have a ton of touchdowns. That you don't have to. You don't have to as a good quarterback. And I think that's becoming quite prevalent in the way that Carson Wentz has been playing this year. He isn't putting up 300, 400 yards because we don't have that much garbage time. We don't have that many garbage minutes for him to go heaving the ball like Dak Prescott. So, I mean, he definitely stands out. He's a top, I believe, from Pro Football Focus, I think he's a top 5 quarterback, definitely top 10 this year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's even ahead of Dak Prescott. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about the almighty yard number or if you have 5 or 6 touchdowns every single game. It's how you make plays happen and how you keep your offense on the field. And this game, we were able to keep the offense on the field a lot more, and the defense wasn't forced to constantly come out after 3 and outs. They were able to rest up, and they were able then come out and play a really good, really strong game on the defensive side of the ball. And that's thanks in large part to some really smart decisions by Carson Wentz and some really good pocket awareness and some really incredible work when leaving the pocket and just making the right decisions. And yeah, like we said, I think it was one of our keys of the game. They have to let the Bronco buck. And that has to continue to be the trend. If he doesn't see the play, you let him do what he thinks is right. And if he sees the play, he makes the play happen so long as, like you said, the receiver catches the ball.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did this week. It still boggles my mind. And I mentioned it, as many plays as Mac Hollins and Nelson Aguilar play. Nelson Aguilar over the last, I think it's been 4 games, has had over 140 snaps and has 4 catches or something like that. In this past game, he had the one nice end around for 16 yards, but then he didn't do anything after that. So they have to either find a way to get Nelly involved in the offense. They're obviously not bringing him back next year. This is his last year. You would think that for somebody that is going to want to get paid next year, that he would start showing out and doing something on offense. But he's just not, and he just can't, and it's mind-boggling. And maybe when Deshaun comes back and he doesn't have to be on the outside, he can go back to the slot. Maybe that'll help him out, because then you won't have a top corner on him. He'll have the slot corner on him, somebody he should be able to beat. Then if you get Deshaun back, the safety has to go over the top. Zach Ertz will finally get open. Zach Ertz has not been. He's probably been a little not happy lately because he hasn't been getting the looks from Carson Wentz. But when you're being double teamed, I'm glad Carson Wentz isn't forcing the ball to Zach Ertz. You don't want that. So hopefully when the team starts to get healthy, things will start to change for the offense and they'll get better. And if this team can get healthy and stay healthy from here on out, they should only improve and they should only get better.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I mean, the good thing about Zach Ertz being double teamed is it's opening up Dallas Goedert, and we're seeing a lot more of what we have in Dallas Goedert. The unfortunate reality is a lot of people are sitting there and they're saying, oh, well, Zach Ertz is expendable now. No, Zach Ertz is not expendable now. Zach Ertz is the reason Dallas Goedert's getting those looks. He's taking up more bodies on that second level for a team that opens up the Miles Sanders, that opens up the Dallas Goederts of the world to make the plays that they're making. Because you automatically have 2 guys always keeping their eye on Zach Ertz and having their attention drawn to Zach Ertz until potentially it's too late for them to come back and make any type of play or have any presence on the play that's being made. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Zach Ertz is doing all that he can. His numbers may not reflect it, but he is definitely a huge part of why the ball is able to be moved around to other people. But like you said, if everyone can be healthy, we have a ton of really talented players. There's a bunch of guys who are like Swiss Army knives. You got the Miles Sanders who does play running back. He can be the receiver. You got Zach Ertz. You got Dallas Goedert who can both block and both be massive presence on that second level. You have Alshon Jeffrey and J.J. who can be those guys who go up for the ball, go up and get it. Then you got Aguilar who despite everything, he's proven he can be like that Swiss Army knife. He can do like that play where he ran the ball for 16 yards. He can catch the ball. Well, this year is a tough example of it, but he can usually catch a ball. And then you have Deshaun Jackson blowing the top off. So, I mean, if you have all those, and then Jordan Howard clearly being the Thunder, driving the pile and just driving that ball down the field. So, at the end of the day, you think about all that and you think about all those weapons. We should be a lot better team than we are, but we are missing that core element, and that's Deshaun Jackson. And as soon as Deshaun Jackson's back, like you said, he opens up Zach Ertz. That would open up completely different games for Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders. And it definitely frees up some more space in the field because you declutter that second level. You declutter being right at the sticks. So I think that having Deshaun Jackson back will be huge and will allow us to reassess our weapons and see what we really have in a lot of these weapons.
Yeah, and it's going to make, hopefully, for an exciting second half of the season. The team is 4-4 right now. We know that the last 5 games are all winnable, but these next 3 are going to be key. I would prefer the Eagles to win all 3, obviously. But if they can win 2 of the next 3, that gets you to 6-5. You win the last 5, you finish 11-5, and that should be enough to win the division. But obviously, we don't want to think that far ahead.
Nope. All we have to do is just pick against them every week.
That's true.
Pick the Giants. Pick the Redskins.
You know how that'll be tough. Pick the Dolphins. Yeah, right. You know how we do we have the Always Next Year podcast. Pick them on ESPN. I went 14-1 this week. My only loss was the Eagles game. I can't believe I went 14-1 and I didn't. I could have went 15-0 this week.
Yeah, I probably didn't do as well as you. I think
you had you had 11 or 12 wins, I think.
But that's me like every week. I think I'm like leading our league.
Actually, no, Rob's dad's now leading. You're second place.
Well, props to Rob's dad for showing us all up.
But I was looking at that and I kept seeing, now I wish I would have bet game. Obviously, these are straight up. They're not against the spread. If I would have bet every game but the Eagles game, I wonder how much money I could have won.
Man, you would have probably had some good money. I mean, you can go and pick those things without if you pick without the spread, they don't give you as much money. But I mean, if you sit there and you get
15-team parlay,
yeah, and you get all 15 right, or you get 14 right, I'm sure you're okay with taking a few cents less.
I think I am. Okay. The Eagles as a team under Doug Pederson have been really good coming out of distractions. After they lost that 48-7 game last year to New Orleans, they came back and were able to make a run at the playoffs. After Carson Wentz tore his ACL in 2017 against the Rams, nobody thought that they had any chance to do anything. They went on to win the Super Bowl. I think this was another showing of the team stepping up for their coach, stepping up for themselves, and proving that all the talk, the outside noise, it doesn't distract them. It doesn't bother them. And they find ways to win games when a lot of people are doubting them. And that is where I think Doug Pederson is one hell of a football coach.
Yo, absolutely. I mean, so many people want to give Orlando Scandrick the game ball this week, and damn it, you might as well do it because the whole team played. So if I had to pick one guy to give the game ball to on that team, I don't think I'd be able to because that was one of the best team efforts we've seen all season. So it would be hard to give it to anyone. So if you're going to give it to somebody, you got to give it to Orlando Scandrick because he created adversity for this Eagles team. And like you said, Doug Pederson, he may not build the world's greatest culture day in and day out, but boy, does he have the respect of his team enough that when adversity faces them or when there's outside noise, he can get them completely in the zone. It's as if there is no noise. It's as if they take the noise and use it to their advantage. and they say, no, that's not true. That's not who we are. Whether it's true or whether it's not, that shouldn't matter. And that doesn't matter to us. And it clearly doesn't matter to Doug Pederson. It could be whoever who said whatever they said about Carson Wentz. We can only assume that it was probably Orlando Scandrick, but it could be anybody saying that about Carson Wentz, and Doug Pederson will stand there with the team and say, I don't care who said it. I don't care why you said it. We're a team. We're going to play as a team. And the way that they battle that adversity is really good. And I hope they continue to take those words of Orlando Scandrick week in and week out and use them as a motivating factor and use it as a driving force to their culture and to the team for the remainder of the year, because that's what could put us in the playoffs.
Yeah, and hopefully the Eagles continue to play with the same intensity and the same passion that they played with on Sunday. Again, a tough game against the Bears coming up, which we will discuss later in the week. All right, let me get your play of the game. And I know you said you can't give a game player or player, or you might not be able to decide, but you need to give me a player of the game too, Connor.
All right. I think the play of the game had to be that Fletcher Cox fumble right at the start. I mean, that was massive. I mean, you know you're getting the ball.
Best game Fletcher Cox has played all year.
Oh, absolutely. He was always, like, every time there was a replay, Fletcher Cox was in the backfield. Fletcher Cox was breaking down that pocket. He had a tremendous game, and I think that big fumble to start the game was massive. Did it turn into a touchdown? No. Did it turn into points? Yes. At the end of the day, the fact that you gave the ball to them to start, and then you just take it away, kind of like what happened to us 2 weeks ago, that's huge. You have to have that type of play by Fletcher Cox, and that's the Fletcher Cox we've been looking for all season. So I think that big fumble to start the game was definitely a humongous thing. Although they may have had a slower second quarter and a weaker second quarter, you still could see that drive and that motivation coming from that first quarter, and it showed at the end of the first half and going into the second half.
Yeah, I agree with you. My play of the game, I'm going to go with that Miles Sanders touchdown run, because it was all sparked by that beautiful block by Jordan Howard. And I mentioned earlier how Jordan Howard had a 96 yards rushing, and he caught the ball and he did a lot of things. But that block sprung Miles Sanders. He doesn't make that block. Sanders is getting tackled for maybe a 5-yard gain, if that. So I thought that was the play of the game, because it kind of took the sails out of Buffalo. Yeah, it was the first drive of the second half, and there were still 29 plus minutes to go. But the Eagles that offensive line for the Eagles dominated. Mm-hmm. And the Bills, and I think Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders said it after the game, the Bills didn't want to tackle them anymore, because the Eagles offensive line had probably their second best, they had 218 yards rushing, so their best game of the year, and put that next to the Green Bay game. So I'm going to call that running, that play to start the second half, the 65-yard touchdown run. That's my play of the game, only because it sparked everything that the offense was able to do in the second half. I don't think anybody thought the Eagles were going to put up 31 points, a team that was averaging 15 points a game their previous 3 games. And putting up 31 points against that Bills team just showed that what this offense can do. And if they can continue to do it and get confidence and get healthy, it's going to be tough for teams to stop them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The weather probably helped, but if we can do that in a weather-stricken game, imagine what we can do if we can get all elements of the game going, which we were kind of seeing it at parts with Carson Wentz and him throwing the ball. If we can get all elements clicking and have that offensive line looking like that week in and week out, that would definitely be huge for us, especially with these next 3 games that are really big games for us. And you want a player of the game?
Yeah.
I guess I'll go Fletcher Cox. It was mostly the first quarter where we saw him all constantly in Allen's face and forcing the turnovers, forcing the fumbles. But, you got to give it to Fletcher Cox. Like you said, that was his best game of the year. He's a star on this team. He's a stud on this team. He's huge on this team. And we saw the presence that he can have when he has a big game. And hopefully that's one of many big games to come, because we definitely need him against Chicago, Seattle, and New England to get to the quarterback, to apply pressure, to shut down any sort of run game. So I got to go with Fletcher Cox, because this needs to be a big turning point for him.
Yeah, again, I mentioned it. That was the best game of the season for him. I'm going to go with the offensive line. Again, I know I can't pick one. The entire offensive line is a unit. They just
That's not fair. That's not fair. I was ready to give the game ball to the whole team, and you're going
No,
to
you
give it
can't
to
do the whole
five
team.
guys.
Give it to a unit. You could have given it to the entire defensive line, which I don't know if the entire defensive line. You could have given it to Cox and Brandon Graham, but that entire offensive line deserves it. They dominate it. They protect. Wentz got sacked once or twice if I'm not mistaken, but still, they did what they needed to do against a pretty decent the front four for the front seven if you think about it, or entire defense if you think about it, for the Bills. They did what they needed to do, and that's how the Eagles are going to have to win games. They're going to have a tough matchup against Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith and Hicks if he's not hurt this week. It's going to be another tough matchup, and a team that's coming in wanting revenge after what the Eagles did to them in the playoffs last year after double doink and the way they lost their game against the Chargers this past week on a doink. So the offensive line is going to have to carry this offense. And if Deshaun's able to come back and if he's close to 100% as he can get and he still has that speed, that's going to help the offensive line. That's going to help Carson Wentz. That's going to help the running backs. That's going to help the tight ends. That's going to help everybody on offense. So this is definitely should be a turning point on the season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think we've said it all. It was just a good all-around team effort, and we need that week in, week out, every single possession on defense and on offense. We need everything to click, and it felt like everything was clicking in this game. The second quarter, not as good, but it felt like the first, the third, and the fourth quarter and the way they ended the first half were really strong, and you need that consistency on a weekly basis if we're going to dethrone the Cowboys and take that spot, because the way this NFC looks, I still don't think that you're going to see two NFC East teams in the playoffs this year, especially one trying to get the wild card from the teams in the way it's going right now.
And there could be two in the West. There could be three in the West if you think about it. There definitely can be two in the North. So it's only going to be one team in the NFC East. So the Eagles have to win the division if they want to make it back to the playoffs for the third consecutive year. Final thoughts, Connor, as we wrap up Week 8 and the Eagles are 4-4 and they look towards the Chicago Bears.
No, I think we kind of said it all there. I mean, this is an amazing all-around team effort, and it's got to be this way week in and week out. And maybe that if that team's playing that way, we can get past that sticks defense of Jim Schwartz if we're playing like that every single week. But yeah, I guess it's all to really say.
Man, I can't wait to talk about the Bears game. It should be a fun one coming up this weekend. You get to talk about Mitchell Trubisky and how the Bears traded up to draft him instead of drafting Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. But, Bears fans might never be able to live that one down after watching what Watson and Mahomes have been able to do over the last couple of years and what Trubisky's been able to do this year, which is a little bit of nothing. Connor, where can our Always Next Year podcast and Kelly Green Hour listeners find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Connor10. I'm on Twitter all the time, tweeting fantasy football, tweeting Eagles, Flyers, who are getting completely destroyed tonight, Phillies, everything. I tweet it all. So definitely give me a follow and feel free to chat with me, respond to things, make Twitter more fun for me.
Speaking of Phillies, what are your thoughts on Joe Girardi before we get out of here?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a breath of fresh air and a much needed breath of fresh air. And I
was very impressed with his press conference.
Yeah, I didn't really, saw clips and stuff, and it sounded good. He did a really good job. I mean, we said the same thing about Bryce Harper's press conference, so hopefully Joe Girardi backs all of that up. But you know what? I actually believe it. I honestly believe everything that he said, because he doesn't mess around. And
he doesn't sound like a robot like the old manager sounded like. So yeah, it should be fun. Hopefully fun if Phillies can address some of the pitching woes that they have. But that'll be a different discussion for a different day. You can follow the Always Next Year podcast Twitter at ANY Podcast. Connor's got some awesome guests lined up for future episodes. Excuse me. You can follow me at LJ Harrell54. That's LJ Harrell, Harrell 54. Pretty much talking football, Eagles football. Howie Roseman did not make any trades today. Let's hope it doesn't come back and bite the Eagles in the ass, because that would be a shame that they waste another year of Carson Wentz's career. We don't want that. We need to have the franchise playing in a playoff game this year just to get them some experience. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour here on the Always Next Year podcast.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such eager my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.